Now, I love watching masterclass ads on YouTube. They're basically someone who's an expert in their field teaching about how to be like them. I saw one recently by the writer of the Da Vinci Code, and he said this about thriller writing. You don't want the reader to sort of settle back and be really comfortable and drifting through the pages of your book. You want to grab them by their throat and hurtle them through the next 150 pages. Well, for the next 450 seconds or thereabout, that will be Jerome Kimani's role as he delivers his get to the point CC3 manual speech. Jerome says that despite being a short man, at 5'4", he doesn't suffer from Napoleon complex. This is a theory that says short people are usually aggressive and obnoxious to compensate for their lack of stature. He's actually a very calm guy, and he even had to be trained to be angry once for a role he took while acting. The feeling of pure rage was totally new for him. He does, however, respond with force towards anyone who disrespects his favorite club, Arsenal FC. I'm sure you shared my joy, Jerome, when we lifted the community shield last week. To introduce him is, I don't think his evaluator is with us, so Mr. Tinega, kindly introduce Mr. Jerome Kimani.
We will be stepping in for Mr. Abila. So thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As you plan a speech, you must be absolutely clear about what you want the audience to do or know at the end of your talk. Your speech must have a purpose. Every speech must have a general and a specific purpose. A general purpose is to inform, to persuade, to entertain, or to inspire. A specific purpose is what you want the audience to do after listening to your speech. Today, Mr. Jerome Kimani will be taking on his third speech project in the Competent Communication Manual, otherwise referred to as the CC3 project. And the objectives of this particular speech are: to select a speech topic and determine its general and specific purposes. 2, to organize the speech in a manner that best achieves those purposes. 3, to ensure the beginning, body, and conclusion reinforce those purposes. 4, to project sincerity and conviction and control any nervousness he may feel. And finally, he should strive not to use notes. Jerome's speech title is Story, Jerome Kimani. Jerome Kimani, Story. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'd like to tell you all a story which I heard a long time ago when I was a little boy. But to this day, I still think about it. And I hope it will have the same impact it did on me that it will on you. So, hadithi, story. The story is about a normal boy who was probably the same age I was when I heard that story. He was maybe 11 to 12 years old. He had a normal family. He had a brother in the army and 2 parents. And he went to a normal school. He just lived a normal life. Now, on a normal day, this boy was in a rush to finish an art and craft project so as he could go and play football. So he haphazardly drew something that popped into his mind, and he rushed and gave the paper to his art and craft teacher, a lovely old lady, and took off down the corridors to go and play football. Scarcely had he gone a few meters when he heard a blood-curdling scream. He circled back into the room and found his art and craft teacher, the old lady, holding a piece of paper in her hand and trembling, a look of horror on her face. She looked at the drawing as if somebody would look at photographic evidence of their child's death. She asked, "Who drew this?" and showed it to the class. It was a picture of a bluefish. Everyone looked in the doorway and saw the boy who was looking at the drawing. He knew it was his drawing. It was a drawing of a bluefish. His jaw was on the floor. Next thing you know, another teacher rushes in, a young man, and he asked, "What's going on?" Because he had the screens, and he sees the image, the picture on the lady's hand of the bluefish. His expression immediately turns like this in an instant from bewilderment to absolute rage. His temples flared, his fists clenched, and his mouth began to foam, and he asked, "Who did this?" Of course, he didn't need an answer because everyone was still looking at the boy in the doorway, whose jaw was still on the floor. In a few steps, he was across the room, and he was pounding on this boy. He was kicking, punching, slapping. It took 3 or 4 teachers who rushed in to take him away, and if they hadn't done that in time, well, I shouldn't say what would have happened. As the teachers pulled him aside, they asked him, "Little boy, what did you do? What's the problem? What have you done?" And he, still reeling from shock, he answered, I drew a blue fish. And you know what happened? Same thing happened. The adults' eyes went bloodshot red like a scene from Bird Box. They threw things at him, they punched and they kicked. And if it wasn't for his fast feet, which he had gotten on the football pitch, well, I shouldn't say what would have happened. The boy was cordoned off, kept in a specific room and locked away from everyone else. Not just because he would have left that school in a hearse, but also because of what was happening to the adults who heard those words or saw that image of a bluefish. His parents were called. His dad, of course, when he heard the words, same thing happened, went into a rage, almost destroyed half his house, and to date has never recovered. His mother fainted, and when she woke up, she thought quickly and called the brother, who was overseas fighting in the army, to come the next day and take him away overseas where he would be less of a danger to everyone else on the battlefield. His brother came and he was taken straight from school into a taxi on the way to the airport. Inside the car, his brother tried to talk to this boy who by now was dumb. He had taken a vow of silence, not just to say those words of bluefish, but just to say anything at all. He didn't want to speak. That's his hero. So this was the boy's hero. He loved his brother. He adored his brother. So the more and more the brother asked and prodded and convinced him to speak, he actually finally opened his mouth for the first time in a few days and said, "Bro, all I did was draw a bluefish." And this time he saw the punch coming. The brother's iron fist shattered the window of the taxi cab, and he saw his opportunity to escape. So he jumped out and took off on the highway. He turned around to see his own brother bearing down upon him like a madman. But as he turned, he didn't see it coming. Boom. A lorry carrying bananas from Kinangop smashed the boy where he stood, and he died on the spot. What is the moral of the story? It is, look right and left before you cross the road. Now, I'm sure you're asking, what is a bluefish? I'm sure some of you have even gone to Google bluefish, meaning, don't worry, you'll not find anything. So, Toastmaster of the day, ladies and gents, the purpose of my speech, or the speech title, is called Get to the Point. So what is the point of my story? What if I told you that the point is the story? Based on the last 5 minutes, I'm sure you'll agree and capture your attention that can make you empathize with somebody you've never met before, or make you ask so many questions better than a well-told story. In fact, there's nothing that can make you connect with a cause better. There's nothing that can make you buy one product over another. And there's nothing that can make you understand a difficult concept better than a well-told story. As we are here learning to communicate, we have to learn to become better storytellers. It is imperative. This is because as human beings, we see things in images, in pictures, in narratives, in scenes. That is why Mushene is so difficult to resist. That is why even as an adult, you hear story and your eyes light up. Because we love stories. That's how we learn. That's how we learn things. And we not just have to learn to tell stories, but our own stories. And that is why 2 members of Summer Toastmasters, Don Bosir and Agatha Juma, started a forum called Engage, where people tell their stories. And I'm sure if you go there and learn and listen to a few of those stories, you learn how powerful your own stories are. So I implore you, let us learn to tell stories better. And as the words of a man known as Ed Percival, and they say, never make a point without telling a story, but never tell a story without making a point. And dare I add, never make the mistake of drawing a bluefish. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Okay, thank you, Jerome. Honestly, I was so confused But at the same time, I wanted to see where that speech was going, and I believe each and every one of us was captivated. I believe that we've learned the importance of becoming proper storytellers, and we appreciate you so much, Jerome, for that speech. Let's all appreciate him for a job well done by using the reaction section.